the Timofey Gushenko, the largest ice-breaking oil tanker in the Arctic. At the heart of this vast vessel are a series of ingenious inventions that avert disaster.
You have to be prepared for the worst-case scenario.
Over the next 5 days, these inventions will help the ship's crew overcome 6 critical challenges as they race to transport 70,000 tons of oil through the frozen Arctic Ocean to Europe.
Nightmares unfortunately happen. Danger is always there.
A single hitch could cause a countdown to collision. Murmansk, northwest Russia. The mooring site of the BęNG, a 360,000-ton oil storage platform. This floating filling station is a critical hub for Europe's oil tankers. Every year, 12 million tons of oil is siphoned from this platform onto ships and delivered to cities across Western Europe to keep the transport network running. The BęNG is kept topped up by this. The Timofey Gushenko. It's no ordinary ship. Weighing over 90,000 tons, it's one of the biggest ice-breaking oil tankers in the world. Beneath its deck are 10 vast tanks, each capable of holding 7,000 tons of oil. Today, Timofey Gushenko must make an epic 1,000-kilometer journey deep into the frozen Arctic to this oil terminal at VMM. Here, it must fill up with crude oil, tapped from reserves across northern Russia, then head back to replenish the BęNG's stock. They can't hang around. The crew has just 5 days to make the round trip before the BęNG runs dry. The countdown clock is ticking. Overseeing this extreme expedition is the fleet's deputy director, Igor Pankov.
We're on board Timofey Gushenko. We are at the very beginning of our journey to this terminal. So we'll get there, we'll load the cargo of oil, one parcel of about 70,000 metric tons, and bring it back to Murmansk.
Monday, 12:01 a.m. The Timofey Gushenko heads off into the night. The ship's crew face 6 critical challenges to complete this treacherous voyage on time. The first stage of the journey, sailing 600 kilometers through open water, is the easy bit. But then, it gets much tougher. 400 kilometers of thick ice blocks the Timofey Gushenko's path to the VMM terminal. Getting through the ice is the crew's first challenge. Ice is deceptively strong. It can stop a ship in its tracks. To help the Timofey Gushenko smash its way through the ice, the crew will rely on the ship's clever bow design. It's curved like a spoon, to push the ice beneath the hulking mass of the vessel, breaking it under her weight. The Timofey Gushenko approaches the edge of the ice sheet. At Captain Mikhail brings the ship to a halt to allow Igor Pankov to undertake a critical inspection of the ship's innovative bow. Any chinks in the hull could jeopardize the ship and crew as they venture through the ice. In 2007, the ice-strengthened cruise ship NS Explorer was sailing through Antarctica. Near the South Atlantic Islands, the vessel collided with a wall of ice much thicker than her hull was built to withstand. The ice gouged a 3-meter gash in the ship. It sank in just 20 hours. Luckily, all its passengers and crew escaped. The Timofey Gushenko's ice-breaking bow is designed to help the ship tear a clear path through the ice.
Nowadays, the majority of the vessels have so-called a bulbous bow. In our case, we need something different than that is so-called ice-breaking bow. It's inclined about 45 degrees.
The bows of traditional tankers are bulbous in shape to cut through the water, reducing drag and increasing speed. But bulbous bows would simply wedge into ice, trapping any ship. So the Timofey Gushenko's bow is shaped like a spoon. Its leading edge pushes the ice down under her hull and breaks it apart, allowing her smooth passage through the ice. The Timofey Gushenko's unique bow was developed at one of the world's oldest icebreaking test facilities in Helsinki, Finland. Here, engineers run tests on scale models of icebreakers to perfect their design. Overseeing today's test is Goran Wilkman.
Essence of model testing, that you test it in a small scale with less money, let's say a few 100,000 for a test series, and then you find out if everything is correct.
More than 600 bow designs have been tested here. To make the conditions in their tank mimic the Arctic, Goran's team have perfected the art of ice making.
This is basically a big freezer, and we start with the spraying carriage that is running back and forth above the basins.
Overnight, this carriage makes hundreds of runs across the 60-meter-long water tank. Nozzles spray tiny drops of water into the air, which is chilled to -5 Celsius. The droplets freeze as soon as they hit the water, forming a thin layer of miniature ice. When the ice is ready, engineers load the scale model ship onto a drive unit to push it through the ice.
When we are testing, we have several alternatives. Like this ship here, we have different type of bow forms, and we are basically going for the best solution, because you don't want to go on board a ship that you find already that it doesn't behave.
Travelling at up to 3 meters per second, the spoon-shaped bow of this model icebreaking tank carves a clear path through the ice. It took months of tests and millions of dollars to perfect the Timofey Gushenko's ice-crushing bow. But out here in the Arctic, the crew's very survival depends on it.
It worked very well. So the vessel can break the ice without any assistance, as thick as 150 centimeters.
Once Igor is back on board, Captain Mikhail restarts the ship's colossal 24-megawatt diesel engines. They have enough power to light up more than 240,000 light bulbs. The Timofey Gushenko begins her long haul through the ice. Challenge 1 complete. The ice-breaking bow may be making light work of this ice sheet, but the going's about to get a whole lot tougher. The Timofey Gushenko is on a collision course with an underwater ridge of ice that could be 3 meters deep, big enough to bring this critical mission to a grind. Tuesday, 8 a.m. in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. The crew of the Timofey Gushenko ice-breaking oil tanker have just 3 days and 16 hours left to reach the terminal in Barrendale, fill up with crude oil, and return through the ice to Murmansk to replenish the Belokamenka oil platform. This crucial hub feeds oil to tankers bound for countries across Western Europe, fueling industry and transport. Time is tight, and the crew still have 5 critical challenges to tackle to complete this crucial mission. The next big challenge: break through these solid ridges of ice. The strong currents and winds are causing the ice sheets to drift together. Here, their edges are colliding and overlapping to form a submerged wall of ice, an ice ridge more than 3 meters thick. The man responsible for navigating the Timofey Gushenko through them today is Chief Officer Dmitry Ryklov.
The best way to avoid ice ridges is to monitor the ice condition. We have special equipment on board, the ice radars.
Dmitry relies on the ice radar to spot the ridges before the ship hits them.
We are in the middle of the screen and we can see here is the area of thick ice.
With no way of navigating around the ridge, Dmitry is relying on ingenious thrusters known as azimuth propellers to help drive the ship directly through it. These swiveling pods are tough enough to clear a path through the thickest ice. Ice ridges can stretch many miles across and up to 10 meters deep. Getting stranded on one of these mountains of ice is a captain's worst nightmare. January 2012. The fuel tanker Render was on a mission to deliver fuel supplies to Nome in Alaska. The ship ran into underwater ice ridges almost 8 meters deep, stranding the crew. The US Coast Guard's Healy icebreaker took 11 days to break her free, so she could deliver her vital cargo. The azimuth propellers are designed to help ease the Timofey Gushenko through the wall of ice ahead. They're attached to the stern of the ship, but can attack the ice head-on.
We met heavy ice ridges. In this situation, we need to turn the vessel and move stern first.
Dmitry maneuvers the Timofey Gushenko round to face the ridge backwards.
Have a special bridge to move stern first. When we change the direction of movement, we can change the bridges.
The crew cross the bridge to a second set of controls that face the stern. Now they are closer to the ice-breaking action. Directly underneath them, the 2 ice-breaking azimuth propellers whirl into action. The heavy hull pushes the ice ridge under the ship, causing some of it to break. The hull channels the hardest ice directly into the propeller's blades. The crew can swivel the pod so that the blades eat into the ridge, churning the ice away from the hull, stopping it from sticking to the ship. At the ice basin in Helsinki, engineers test scale models of a ship's azimuth propellers to make sure that they can do heavy battle with the ice. Engineer Anu Oikonen makes scaled-down ice ridges to test the azimuths to the extreme.
There's some compression that makes the ice get in the blocks, and then those are compressed together and kind of piled up. In the nature, the ice ridges are formed in a similar way.
She uses the carriage to compress the blocks of ice into thick peaks and leaves them to freeze solid to mimic Arctic conditions.
Ice ridges are a big and different kind of challenge for the ships than the thick level ice. And ice ridges, they can be really, really thick in the Arctic.
The carriage drives the ship into the ice, stern first, at a metre per second. The azimuth blades collide with the ice ridges head-on. Readings from the model indicate how well the blades are performing and how much power they use.
When you are traveling in heavy ice running a stern propellers first, you can turn the props so that you get minimum amount of ice into the propulsion, and you can flush the hull, and also you can flush the other propulsion units so that you have more things to choose from.
This is a full-size azimuth. It's huge. Each one soars 10 meters tall and weighs 250 tons. These mammoth propulsion units are the ultimate weapon in the Timofey Gushenko's ice-destroying arsenal. With the monster azimuth propellers turning at more than 120 revolutions per minute, they make mincemeat of this ice ridge, carving a clear route for the ship.
Using of azipods, making such a maneuvers be easier.
Challenge 2 complete. But carving the channel through the ridges is slowing them down. The delay worries Dmitry.
Now, due to stern movement, our speed is decreased, and it takes us more time to get the terminal.
Tuesday, 12 p.m. The ship is now 900 kilometers into its journey to Varanda. The crew now have just 3 days and 12 hours to complete their mission and return to Murmansk in time to replenish the BęNG oil supply platform. Now they face their next big challenge: prevent a deadly explosion on board. Although the ship's oil tanks are currently empty, they contain a mix of flammable vapors from the previous voyage. A spark could trigger a catastrophic blast. To thwart explosions, the crew will rely on an ingenious invention: an inert gas generator. It makes clouds of non-volatile gas to neutralize the flammable vapors in the tanks. The task of making sure that the system runs without fail today rests on the shoulders of Chief Engineer Mikhail Dolgov.
I control everything in the engine room, everything that mechanical, electrical, navigational equipment of the ship.
Explosive vapors on a ship can be lethal. Los Angeles Harbor, 1976. The SÄNG oil tanker is refueling with more than 16,000 barrels of fuel oil when it explodes without warning. Vapors escaping from the tanks had burst into flames, igniting into an inferno. 5 people died, and it cost $3.5 million to rebuild the quay. The Timofey Gushenko's inert gas generator was developed to avoid tragic accidents like this. It It smothers the toxic vapors inside the empty oil tanks. Two powerful fans blow fresh air from outside the vessel into a burner, where it's mixed with fuel and ignited. The combustion consumes nearly all the oxygen in the air, making it inert. Jets spray the inert gas with seawater to remove any soot or dirt. Pumps then channel it around the ship's tanks. This novel air conditioning system neutralizes the volatile vapors in the tanks, reducing the chances of an explosion. 8 decks down in the engine room, Mikhail must carry out a critical inspection of the seawater sprayer. If there's too little water flowing through the system, traces of soot could build up, clogging the pipes and stopping the flow of gas. The ship could become a floating bomb. Today, the seawater pumps are running at full flow, and there's enough gas pumping around the tanks to neutralize the flammable vapors. Disaster averted.
Proper working of energized generator is very important for safety of the ship.
The crew now have 3 days and 10 hours to fill up with oil and return to Murmansk. But they have yet to undertake their greatest challenge. Fast-flowing sheets of ice surround BØNG terminal. Docking with it to load up in these conditions could be impossible and bring the mission to a halt.